Well, it's not very. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
It's really a great honor and sincere pleasure to have you tonight as my host, or let me say, in this one-on-one conversation or interview. I really can't believe that I'm interviewing you. It's a dream come true to me, by the way.
I can't believe that
I'm a great
here.
fan of you. Oh, you were here in Egypt again.
Exactly.
I'm really a great fan of you. You have millions of fans and millions of readers all over the world. I know that. I have to start by saying that you are a true inspiration to me as a writer. You inspired me to write history. My last novel, it's called Amitié Vert. It's a novel about Isfahan, and I had the pleasure to write your great novel Ibn Sina, The Road to Isfahan, as a reference at the back of my book. I don't know. I have to start asking you. First of all, let's go back to the name. I heard from all the Jesuitians, your friends, and by the way, some of them are joining us today, that your real name was Gilbert, right? We'd like to know, first of all, how did the name Sinoe come from? Does it have to do anything to do with Sinoue, the pharaoh, the great pharaoh?
First of all, good evening. And well, you have to, you as an Egyptian has to know that Sinuhe was
I didn't want to say it. Okay,
was a doctor. Was a doctor that worked with one of the pharaohs, actually Akhenaton, and Sinuhe is the first novel in the history. It was written some 3,000, 4,000 years ago. And we have discovered it. It's a very small novel. It's maybe 10 pages. But it's supposed to be the first novel in history. And a Finnish writer, many, many years later, in the 60s, 50s, 60s, wrote a book, a historical novel, based on the first novel in history. Hello?
Yeah, okay.
Do you see me?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Oh. So, and this Finnish history is called Mika Waltari. And Mika Waltari wrote a book called Sinoue the Egyptian.
Yeah, okay.
And when I read that book, I was in Egypt. I was 16 years old. And as every kids or young people, I have identified myself to the hero of the book. And I said to myself, Sinoue, it's me. And when I came to France, I have changed my name officially.
Really?
I went to the trial with the judge and everything. And on my papers now, I have both names. I have Kassab, but I have also Sinoue.
And why Sinoue? Out of all those
It's an
pharaohs and
Egyptian
everything.
name. It's more
Yeah,
Egyptian.
I mean, why
more
this
Egyptian
guy?
than
No, why this guy in particular?
Why what?
Why this guy in particular? You were inspired by him? You like the story? You relate to it?
Well, it would be too long to explain why. But probably, first of all, because he was Egyptian. He was a doctor. And at a certain moment of my life, I hesitate between being a writer or a doctor. And then he was a lonely man. And I think we are all lonely in life, even if we are surrounded by husband, wife, girlfriend, and friends. Finally, we are always alone. And I felt that I like this feeling. It's not a sad feeling, being alone. It's a very
No.
it's a very positive feeling, especially nowadays where we are surrounded by noise, by Facebook, by WhatsApp, by internet, by everything, and being alone and being, you know, being able to think, to it's a good thing. So I identify myself.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. And so you're part Lebanese, or your origin is Lebanese, and you lived in Egypt until you were 18, right?
The family of Kassab is apparently coming from, we don't know exactly, but probably from Syria or Lebanon. They left this area at the 19th century, and they because there were lots of massacre of Christian in that area due to the Turkish. Hello, Mr. Erdogan. So they flew and they went to the only country in the region that was accepting all religion, Christian, Jewish, Muslim. It was Egypt. It was the only area where there was this tolerance. So I guess that they went there in the 19th century. We call them the Shawam, people coming from the Sham.
Yeah, Shawam. Okay.
Yeah, and my grandfather was born in Egypt. Before him, his father. So I consider myself not Shawam, but totally Egyptian.
No, we were proud that you consider yourself Egyptian. The
And
great legend. Yeah.
and I'm proud of being Egyptian, you know. I'm going to be honest with you. For a long period, when I came to Europe, I didn't like to say I was Arab because Arab has a very bad reputation, and I was ashamed
Nowadays, yeah.
at that time in the 60s, 65. But now I'm cured completely.
So at 60 in the 65s, you said Arabs had a bad reputation that back then?
They had a
What
bad
about now?
reputation. Yes, you know, especially in France, because don't forget that France had a very good, difficult relation with Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco. They were occupying these territories, and the first Algerian came to France, and there was a lot of mess when they arrived, and they were rejected by the French people, and there was a big political problem. And European people in general don't make any difference between an Egyptian, an Iraqi, a Syrian, an Algerian. For them, we're Arabs. And I'm trying to tell them that it's like saying that there is no difference between a Swedish and an Italian, and a Spanish and a Norwegian. Well, it's a European, but there are lots of difference of language, difference of thinking. But in Europe, they don't see the difference between them.
Although I think the relation between France and Egypt has been long ago, and it has historic
Yes,
roots and everything, I think it's a very good relation.
It's excellent relation, and French people adore Egypt. They are really in love with Egypt.
I know that.
But they love the archaeological aspects of Egypt, not like German or English who want to go to the beach and to the sun. French people like the history of Egypt, and since Napoleon, of course.
Of course. So the Sapphire Book, Delman, A Kingdom with Two Seas, The Crucified Queen, Daughter of the Nile, Yurivan, The Road to Isfahan. This is the books that I read for you, and I'm getting the others over now. I would like to ask you, why history? How did you knock the door of writing history, which is very difficult, and I think getting to the references, and how do you get your references? Is this some true stories? Is part of it is true? How do you get your references in writing these books, and why history in particular?
Well, Russia, it's very simple. No, it's not very simple. It's quite complicated. Um, I think that history teach us to understand the present. Uh, if you study history, if you look back to what happened 100, 200, 300 years ago, it you're enabled to understand better what is going on now and why it is going on now.
I believe
So
so. Yeah.
that's why I was interested by history. That's all.
But you started writing at 40 years? I mean, when you were 40 years old?
Sorry, I didn't get it.
You started writing when you were 40?
Yes, because no, actually I always wanted to write, but I was in Egypt. I was alone. I didn't have brother or sisters. There were no TV. Yes, there was one channel in black and white. No internet, no smartphone, no nothing.
Thank God. Thank God there wasn't.
And when you're the only son, you get bored. My parents were quite strict. It's not now like now with my son who can go out whenever he wants. So I was locked in the house, and I was getting bored. So reading was for me the first way to escape reality. The first time I read a novel, I think I was 13, and I discovered the pleasure of flying away. I was not anymore in my house. I was traveling. And, well, the the fact that you read a lot, you become modest, unless you're Magnoon. So the more I was reading, especially classical book, the more I was saying to myself, come on, man, forget it. You will never be a writer. I mean, look at these people, what they write, and what the quality of the book. So I was really afraid of writing. And the more I was reading, the more I was afraid. And I wrote my first book when I was 27 years old. I sent it to publisher by mail, by not email, by post office, and it was rejected. And this was a message for me telling me, you see, you have no talent, you cannot make it,
Oh,
forget it. And I waited something like 10 years from 27 to 37. And at 37, I said to myself, come on, you're going to be 40. It's a difficult age. It starts to descend. So you better,
don't say this, please.
yeah, you better now try to make your dream true. Otherwise, you're going to die without even trying. And I think I was this, afraid of dying without trying to realize my dream that made me overcome the fear of writing. This is why I wrote so late. I was
And
stupid.
what was your? Oh no, you should. If you have written earlier, I think you would like have 100 novels now.
Yes, and the more you get mature, uh, as far as I'm concerned, because you have a writer that writes bestsellers and they're very young and they're very talented. But I was saying to myself, what I'm going to tell people. I mean, I didn't have anything to say. So when you don't feel that you have something to say or write, you shouldn't even try. You have to.
So,
It has to be a need, something very powerful. I mean, for me.
how long does it take you to write a novel like Ibn Sina, for instance?
Well, the first book was very long, something 3 years maybe. And now, approximately, I write a book in 1 year. It takes me 1 year.
But you write on daily basis, huh?
I write from 7 o'clock to 1 o'clock every day of my life. I stop at 1 I do nothing from 1 to 2. I sleep from 2 to 2.5. This is an Egyptian habit.
Oh
and,
yeah, very.
and then I start from 2:30 to 6, 7. Then I stop every day since 33 years.
Wow.
Sunday,
You don't get
Monday,
bored?
Christmas.
You don't get bored
I get bored.
from the daily routine, I mean.
I would die if I don't write. I get bored when I don't write, when I go on holiday. This is the worst
Really?
moment of my life. Holidays for
That's
me
what
is a nightmare.
that's why you're a legend. That's what I said at the beginning.
No,
You're a true
nobody's a
legend
legend.
now.
No, Russia, you're wrong. Nobody. You are a writer, and there are many writers. There are. I always say there are no legend. There are no great writers. There are good books and bad books, but that's all. And we all try to do our best. I'm sure that when you write, you sit and you try to do the best you can. Sometimes you succeed and you have a good book. Sometimes the book is less good than the previous one. It's always a challenge, and nothing is sure. When you write, it can be a failure. You can write and think that you wrote a masterpiece, and then after 1 year read it and you say, my God, what a disaster.
Happens
Right.
all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure you know that writing is a miracle. And I always say, we don't write, as we writers don't write. We are just a kind of bridge between us, between the reader, and something that we can't explain. Uh, we are just a bridge. We are nothing else.
Right. So I'm going to start with The Road to Asfahan because this is a great novel. 479 pages of endless pleasure. That's what it meant to me and to my mother, to a lot of people who read it. The biography of Ibn Sina, told by his fellow Abu Ubaid al-Ghazgani, right? Who followed
Mhm.
him for 25 years. Tell me more about this novel. Is this biography a true biography? Where did you get your references for it? And why did you were inspired to write this novel? Because this is really a masterpiece.
I don't know if it's a masterpiece, but it's one of my books that it's a good one.
To me, it is.
No, I know when in 33 novels, I know where it's a good one, where it's a less good one, and Ibn Sina is a good one. Um, how it happened? Well, it happened that I decided actually to write. Ibn Sina is my second novel, the second one. Uh, I decided to write the biography of Omar Khayyam. This
Mhm.
was my target. And I started to work a lot on Omar Khayyam, on Persia of the time. It was not Iran, it was Persia. And I was working a lot, and I started to write 2 or 3 chapters of the life of Omar Khayyam. And one day I came out to have a walk, and I discovered in a library a book of Amin Malouf
Mhm.
that was just released and was called, I think it was
Samarkand.
The Road of Samarkand.
Yeah, Samarkand. Mhm.
Samarkand.
It's a great book. Yeah, I
A
read it.
great book.
Mhm.
I almost had a heart attack because it was the life of Omar Khayyam.
Oh, okay. It happened yeah, that happened with me once.
So,
And just you changed the plan.
so I came back home. I didn't cry, but almost.
Oh my
And
God.
I went to
I
bed and
imagine.
I slept. And I threw all the 3 chapters in the fire, in the garbage. And I said to myself, well, what I'm going to do. But making research of Omar Khayyam, I've been through Ibn Sina. It's the same period, 1,000 year. Um, and I said, well, this guy, Ibn Sina, seems actually much more interesting than Omar Khayyam. And that's how I wrote Ibn Sina. And now each time I see Amin Maalouf, who's a big friend and he lives just next door, I tell him, thanks to you that I wrote Ibn Sina.
He's a different character, the Sheikh president. He called him that, like the Sheikh president.
Sorry?
I mean, you called Ibn Sina, or he was called the Sheikh president.
Yeah, the Sheikh,
Oh.
Sheikh Sheikh Ibn Sina, yeah.
So where did you get the references about him? Was it an online references or go to books for your
well, actually, life is a perpetual miracle. At that time, there was no internet, of course. It was, I think, in 90s, I think. I used to work at the National Library in France, which is a fantastic library. And I was making my research there. It was a beautiful place, actually. And I will start to make research on Ibn Sina. And miracle, I found a small book of 12 or 15 pages written by this guy, Abu Ubaid al-Jawzani, who was the disciple of Ibn Sina. And he wrote, it was translated in English, of course, the whole life of Ibn Sina in 12 pages. Wow. And these 12 pages, I mean, he was saying, my master was born in Bukhara, then he moved from Bukhara to, just saying
headlines.
Not details, but the big
headlines.
And I based myself on these 15 pages.
That means that the events or the story that you told in the book is fiction, complete fiction?
No.
Based on the events, but still you wrote a lot of fiction in it?
This is what we call a historical novel. It's based on real facts, totally real facts. The name of the emir and the name of the characters are real, but of course, I added the novel, which is a pleasure.
Thanks to Jose. When was that 12 pages written, or the Jawzani? When did he write that?
When did he write
the date? Yeah.
He was following Ibn Sina. It was at his time.
No. I mean, when was that book released, or the book that you found in the library?
My book or the book of Jawzani?
That means that it was a very old book. No, the book of the Jawzani.
It was never released. It was just a document in the library.
No, you found the
I found the document.
A document. Okay.
No, it was never released. It was.
I thought it was a book. So.
No, 12 pages between millions of documents. And by
I think I should visit this library.
Yeah, I was almost sleeping there. It was a beautiful place.
So going to your next novel, the Great Daughter of the Nile, it's an amazingly written story, actually, about a great ruler, Muhammad Ali Basha. Egyptians love it.
After Ibn Sina, it was the Egyptian, yeah.
The Egyptian is the first part, and then the Daughter of the Nile was the second part.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Why Muhammad Ali Basha? How do you see him? Was he a strong ruler, a dictator? What did you see in him to write about him, that inspiring book?
Muhammad Ali in Egypt is not very liked. Even in school, we didn't learn a lot about him. He was a Turkish man, and he was a foreigner, and he was a foreign ruler. So you don't appreciate a foreign ruler. It's normal. But according to me, he is one of the greatest men that Egypt had. He took Egypt at the beginning of the 19th century, and Egypt at that period was a kind of desert. There was nothing. There were no schools. There were almost no roads. It was a country in the darkness after Napoleon left. And I think Muhammad Ali had a big quality. He took this Egypt and he threw it in the 20th century by making schools, by making roads, by having an army. Egypt didn't have any army. It was the Mamluk who were there, or the Turkish, and Egypt was one of the first Middle East. Cairo was the first capital in the Middle East who had light in the streets, of pavement in the roads. We had fleet, we had an army, we had schools, we had everything.
True.
So of course he was a dictator, but at that time everybody was a dictator, and even nowadays we have lots of dictators. So he was a dictator, but he worked for Egypt. I mean, you have dictators who destroy their country. When they died, they didn't leave anything, no trace, but just disasters and people in jail. So this guy, when he died, Egypt was in the 20th century. It was a very advanced country. So whether we like it or not, we have to accept the fact that this man, even if he was a foreigner, even if he was a dictator, among thousands of dictators, he he transformed Egypt, and I like this man.
But he left Egypt in a great debt.
You think European countries don't have that?
Well, of course it is. No,
We
I
have
don't.
debts up to our
I
neck.
agree.
Greece didn't have debts. You think America doesn't have that? All the countries
Of
have
course
that.
it is.
Okay.
But at least but what you mean is that at least he made something for Egypt. He made the modern Egypt.
He made a modern Egypt. That was important. Of course, the problem of the debt is it was an excuse for the English to occupy Egypt, English and French and all these people. It was an excuse to put their hand on Egypt. Look, Greece a few years ago had much more debts than Egypt,
Mhm.
but we live in the 21st century, and no one thought about eating Greece and taking Greece as a and occupy Greece.
Yeah,
But at
I
that time,
understand
the
that.
fact that Egypt had debts, it was an excuse. But this is not possible nowadays. It was possible at that time.
Where did you get the references for writing about Muhammad Ali Pasha?
Oh, it's almost 10 years of research
Wow.
everywhere.
Because someone is sending a question. She's asking you, how long does it take you for research, and how long does it take you for writing? If you say that you write a
For
book in 1
Muhammad
year,
Ali, it's an exception. It's almost 10 years. Among
10
them,
years of research. Oh
yeah,
my God.
among them, 2 in Egypt. I stayed in Egypt for 2 years. I worked in the archive. I worked in a different library at the Jesuit school and other schools. And thanks to the French government, when I mentioned my project to the French government, I don't know how you say in English, they gave me well, kind of some money to go to Egypt and stay there for 2 years
Mm,
to make my research.
mm.
And
Okay.
well, it was a long work, even in Brussels, and British Library in London. It was a long work. It's the longest work I ever done.
So I have to thank the French government because this novel is really magnificent. So I thank them along.
You know, Russia. I don't think it's. When I finished it, I knew it was not something is still missing, and I hope that tomorrow other writers, other researcher will work on it, because the most important information are in Turkey, in Istanbul, where
Really?
we have all the letters between Turkey and Muhammad Ali at that time, and they are in Turks. So you need
And where
someone
it
to go there and make research and find all these letters. And they have lots of letter in Egypt, in the archive,
mm,
but it's a pity because I don't know how it is now, but when I was making research in the Egyptian archive, my God, it was a nightmare.
Okay. Where was that? Where did you make the research? Where is the Egyptian archive that you worked
At
in?
that time, it was under the, how you call it, the Ala.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was
Okay, the Citadel, the Citadel.
under, I know where it is. But
And
there was
do you
no
know?
order, no computer, nothing. It was, I found precious documents in boxes with dust, and it was a disaster. I was going to cry.
I'm going to cry now.
Yeah. No, I hope
Okay, and
I hope they change it.
we'll have to look about that. I will see that tomorrow.
No, it's true
So
because they have very precious documents there.
and the other documents that's found in Turkey, do you know where that is? The other archives?
Sorry, the sound is not very good. What?
I mean, and the other documents that's found in Turkey. Do you know where that is kept?
In the Turkish archive, maybe in the Turkish library, National Turkish Library. I'm sure there are treasures there, but you need someone who read the Turks and can translate it, and have to spend at least 1 year working on that. But I'm sure there we have a brilliant portrait of the Egypt of that time and of the relation between Muhammad Ali and Turkey. You have to remember that Muhammad Ali wanted at that time the independence of Egypt. And that's why he was destroyed by English people and Turkish. He wanted Egypt to be independent before Nasser. So can you imagine? So we have to salute this man.
Yeah, yeah. I think now I changed the whole picture when you're talking about him.
Well,
you put him in some other place for all of us. So somebody's sending you a question. What do you think about prizes? I mean the book prizes. How do you see that?
the book prize?
Yeah, the book prizes, the writer that win book prizes or won the book prizes. Is it worth really something, or it doesn't mean that the writer is the greatest one in the world to win a prize? How do you evaluate prizes? I mean, in the
Well,
Middle East, of course.
if I have to be, if I have to lie, I will tell you, like most writers, price are not important. What is important is to write, and I don't give a shit about, sorry, a damn about prices. I think price are very important. First of all, it's always a pleasure for a writer to get someone who tell him you're good. It's like saying to someone, okay, like in school, you're the first of the class. Okay, great, take a medal. It's a pleasure. And the one who will tell you it's not, he's lying. Second, a prize makes a book known among readers. It's important that when you have a Nobel Prize, let's say, most of the time it's writers totally unknown, and they make them known. People will maybe buy their books, and they will read it. So it's a good thing.
But that's if it goes fair. Do you think it goes fair?
Book fair are, according to
No.
me,
I mean, is it fair? Is the prizes fair?
no price is never fair.
Because
No.
someone is asking you, do you think there are political direction for the prizes? And he's talking about the Booker Prize, actually.
Look, when you have a loser and you have a winner, it's not fair. Because when you have 5 excellent books, we have a prize here in France, which is the most important. It's called the Prix des Libraires, the prize given by the librarians. It's something like 304 library who vote for a book. Well, it's always sad because I got an important prize a few years ago, which is that prize given by the library, people who sells book, who reads book, and they give you, according to them, the prize. Well, with me there were 2 or 3, 4 other writers, and their book were excellent. So it's unfair. I got it, but that's life. Life is not fair, you know.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair that you got it.
No, but it's always unfair because you have nice books too, good books.
Do you think there is a difference between a real writer and a bestseller, or are they the same? Because some people sell books and they are not the greatest writers, and some people write and they're the greatest writer and then they don't make a bestseller. They don't have followers in the internet and stuff like that. Is there a difference between the two terms, a real writer and a bestseller?
Look, you have what is a bestseller? It's a book that people decided to like. It's a book that talks to people. It's nothing else. Suddenly, a reader recognizes himself when he reads the pages. He says, "Oh, that's me. That could have happened to me." So, if you sell 1,000,000 books, that doesn't make that book bad. It's not because you sold 1,000,000 copies that it's a bad book. Being a bestseller doesn't mean that you sold a bad story. According to me, I of course you have books that are written just to sell. You know, you'll have sex, love, money. You put a bit of everything in it, and it works. Okay, you have these kind of books, but it doesn't mean that a good book who sells is a bad one.
Because we had this discussion the last time we talked, and you said that it doesn't mean that people read. I have to ask, they read what?
People don't read anymore. Don't try to dream, Russia. Forget it.
With all these books that's sold every day.
You know, people buy and don't read.
I agree on that.
They buy the last Nobel Prize, and they will never open it probably. No, nowadays smartphone and internet kills completely. You know, when I used to when I travel in Paris and a subway, uh, at my time, everybody had a book in his hand.
Yes.
When you travel by train or you take a plane, usually years ago, everybody had a book. Now everybody has a smartphone. And these hours you lose by chatting, it's hours you lose reading. And this is a big problem. In France, I must say, we talked about it, people still read. In England, in Switzerland, in Belgium, in Germany. But in Italy, Spain, Portugal, nobody reads anymore. And
how about in Egypt?
Huh?
How about Egypt?
Actually, I cannot tell you. I don't know. I don't know the market. I know that when I go to Egypt, I go to libraries, I walk in the street, I see dozens of books in the street, people selling, but I don't know if people read. I hope they read. I don't know. I don't know how the market is working. If people were reading with 100,000 of inhabitants in Egypt, a bestseller should at least sell 30 or 40,000 copies. At least.
Well, I think you're right. I really agree that people buy books, but they don't read it. I guess people nowadays buy books to show off that he's buying this and that, but he doesn't read it. I think you're right.
It's a pity. I see my son doesn't read.
It is.
He never reads
Mine
unless
too.
I
My
take a
daughters
gun
too.
and I put him on his face. He wrote maybe he read 2 of my books. That's all. But the young people,
Oh, that's good.
they don't read. Young people don't read at all. They listen to music and they chat.
So I'm going to go for your Shahrazad. Shahrazad is the Egyptian, or Al-Masriya, the one that you talked about. And the daughter of the Nile is Giovanna Mandarino. So you wrote about Egyptian women then and now. How do you see the Egyptian women? How do you see them at the age of the daughter of the Nile and Muhammad Ali? And how do you see them now? Do you think there's really a freedom? They want their freedom. They're moving forward, or what? Because I have a different idea.
You know why I wrote the Egyptian? Why I wrote?
Why?
I imagined
No.
this character of Shahrazad, which is not an Egyptian name, because I was found, and I admire a woman called Hoda Sha'arawi.
I
Hoda
agree.
Sha'arawi for me was the Egyptian. And actually,
Wow.
she created a magazine in the 30s called The Egyptian. I don't know if
Yes.
you heard about it. You can
Of
still
course, I
find
heard about it. Yeah.
copies
In the archive, in the archives.
exactly. And I met her little daughter who lives in Switzerland. And for me, Hoda Sha'ari was really the symbol of the Egyptian woman, meaning she was free. And I adore that. And this gave me the idea of the Egyptian. For me, the Egyptian is Hoda Sha'ari, much
Does she
before
know
her.
that, or did she know that you were
No,
inspired
no,
in the
because
book
she
by her
died. She was dead. She was dead when I.
before?
Well,
Oh,
yes,
when the time you wrote.
yeah. She was dead in, I think, in 40s. I don't remember exactly. And my book was published in 1990s. But this is what gave me the idea because I like this kind of Egyptian woman, and I hope, I don't know, it's a difficult subject. Uh, I hope that we have in Egypt still women like Hoda Sharawi. I hope, because this is the future and it's very important.
Well, what I think is that the causes women are fighting for now is different from what they fought for yesterday. I think they fought for more solid causes back then when Hoda Sha'arawi searched for the real freedom of women, and that's what I wrote in one of my books actually.
Well,
So you have a lot
no,
of questions actually. Okay,
no, sorry.
okay, go on, please.
Uh,
No, please go on.
you know, the symbol of freedom for Hoda Sha'arawi at that time was the veil. Don't forget that at the time of Hoda Sha'arawi, no Egyptian woman had a veil. Nobody, except the rich
Yeah.
people, the high class. It's very strange. And there is that fantastic scene, I think it's 1929, you have to check. She came back from Rome after attending a conference. She arrived at the railway station, Bab el Hadid, and journalists were waiting for her there. And she arrived and she had the veil and she took it away. She threw it on the ground and she said,
They throw it on
never
the
again.
ground. Yeah.
So
I
that's
think
what,
this happened in a protest.
yeah. So this
I
is,
heard. I don't know that it happened in one of the protests.
so this is a symbol of freedom. Okay, if I want to put a veil, I have the right to put a veil, but don't force me to put a veil. This is the message. You don't have to force people to do things. People have the need. You know what is the meaning of freedom? Having the choice. That's all. If I want to dress in a certain way, I have the right to dress in a certain way. If I want to put a veil, I have the right to put a veil. If I don't want to put a veil, I have the right. Freedom, choice. When you understand that freedom meaning choice, you understand everything. And this is what I like in life, even in Europe.
Okay, so from all your books, They're all great. What's your favorite? The one favorite to you? Every writer have one favorite book or close to his heart. What is the closest book of yours to your heart?
My dear Russia, this is a question I will never answer because it's impossible. I cannot tell you.
Because I was
No,
saying we
no, as I told you, there are some books that I'm proud of having made a good job. And I have some other book what I said
give
to
me one name.
myself could have been better, but I don't have a favorite book.
Okay.
I know which one I can say, okay, good job. And some other I say,
Okay, which one is the good job?
the Book of Sapphire, of
Which one
course.
is the good job?
The Book of Sapphire,
Mm.
Ibn Sina.
I was going to go to this book. It's a great book.
Yeah, Ibn Sina. And some others. Some others, there's a book called
Okay.
Night and Day that I think was translated in Arabic, which I like very much. They made a film out of it. Well, there are some. Let's say in the 33 books, maybe there are 5 that I really like.
What about the translation? Do you think the translation sometimes adds to the book? Or I heard in one of your interviews that you don't like the translations of some of your books.
No, I never say I don't like the translation. No,
Oh, okay.
I just hope the
Maybe.
translation of my books are good because I don't read German, I don't read Arabic anymore. I just hope they're good. And apparently, in Arabic, people told me it's very well translated. So no,
I think so.
I think translation is very good for a book. That means other people in other language will be able to read your work. No, I like very much being translated.
Okay, so let me talk about one book that is a kind of fingerprint, as I see it, the Yerevan. It's the name of the Armenian capital, as I gathered from the book. The novel shed light on the massacre made by the Ottoman Empire against the Armenians. The novel is a sort of trilogy. It's about the Red Sultan Abdelhamid II, and this sultan was really kind of I don't know how to put it, but a real dictator. Why this guy? Why did you decide to write about him also? And I don't know. Do you consider him the one responsible for all the massacres?
You know, at a certain moment, a few years ago, Turkey wanted to enter in the common market, European common market. They asked to enter. And I was very shocked because I heard the discussion and nobody asked the Turk, okay, we can accept your candidature. I know he said, we can accept that you ask to enter, but
Yeah, okay.
you have to at least say we are sorry of what happened in 1915, a period where the Turkish killed 1 million Armenians. Nobody asked them that. They said to Turkey, okay, we'll study your file, and why not? Though when Germany created the common market after the war, Germany hasn't stopped of saying we are sorry for the Jews that we've killed, the Shoah, and all
Yeah.
that. And nobody asked anything to the Turkish. I was so
But they
shocked.
didn't join the market.
They never, and I hope,
No.
well,
And I hope they will never.
it's another story because I wanted them to enter in the common market, but after saying we're sorry, because I think having 80 million of Muslim entering in the common market was a good thing. But that's another debate. So I was so shocked that I knew the story of this genocide, and I decided to write that book. And I had a lot of Armenian friends in Egypt. You know, in Egypt they were full of Armenian, in Alexandria and all that. My friends in school were Armenians, and their grandmother was telling me the story of the massacres, all the sufferness, and I decided to write the book. And I know that when I finished it, my publisher said, I'm going to send it to Charles Aznavour because he's Armenian, to ask him if you want to write the prologue, the preface, the
Okay.
introduction.
Introduction to it.
And they send it to they send him the book. He said, I like this book. I'm going to write it, but I want to ask one question. Is Gilbert Armenian or not? So they told him he's not Armenian. So he said, okay, then I'm going to write it. Because he didn't want, he wanted the book being written by someone objective.
Someone else.
Not by an Armenian. This is how the book was born.
Okay, now I'm going to go to another book, the Sapphire book.
Are you going
you wrote a quote that
wait.
No,
are you going to go
this
to
this is my last book. The books I like, I have to discuss. So you wrote a quote in the Sapphire book that said, you should have known that modesty opens up the doors to paradise and insult opens up the door for hell. That's what I wrote in the translation. So the Sapphire book, Spain, and the fall of the Islamic Empire there, and how the three responsible religious men, how did they search for a letter from God or a message from God to guide them? It's an amazing idea. I don't know how did you get this idea. So from where did you get the idea? And do you stand equally between all religions? I mean, stand at equal distances from all religions?
First of all, I have to tell you something. I don't choose the subject. I told you in the beginning, I'm a bridge between something that I cannot explain and the reader. And the idea, it's like someone who take me by the sleeves and tell me, you have to write this. I can't explain. So the idea came to me, and I must say I was always obsessed by religion. I'm a believer. I was born Christian, but it's not my fault. As I always say, I could have been Muslim, I could have been Buddhist, I could have been, I don't know, Jews, whatever it is. So you don't choose your religion. It's not something you fight for when you're born. You are not born saying, I'm going to fight to be Buddhist. I'm going to win the battle and being a Christian. You're born Christian, you're born Muslim. It's like this, okay? And I was always asking I read a lot I read the Quran, I don't know how many times, the Hadith, al-Bukhari. I read because I was interested to know, okay, who says that me as a Christian has the answer, the good religion? Maybe it's a Muslim who has a good religion. Maybe it's a Jewish who has a good. I don't know. I'm just, one morning I started to ask myself, who has the truth between us? And this is how the book started, because I think we all have a part of the truth. I don't think that we have the truth as a whole part. I'm convinced that each one of us, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, whatever it is, we have a small part of the answer, but we don't have the answer. People who think they have the answer, alhamdulillah, I'm happy for them. But I believe that we all have a part. And this is how the book started. I imagine that God wrote a letter saying, I'm going to tell you which religion is the good one. And these two men, the Jewish, the Christian, and the Muslim, are running after this letter because they are convinced that in the letter, God will tell you, a Muslim, this is the good, this is your good religion, or the Christian. And this is how it started. It's because in my mind I had a battle. I was fighting to find an answer, and I couldn't find it actually. This is
Well,
the whole
I
story.
have to say that it's a brilliant idea, brilliant, really idea of a book.
It's,
So you have a question? Okay. Okay.
No,
Go
it's a
on.
kind of idea that you have some time in the life, in one life. I know that it's a special idea. Yeah, I know it's my best
So you
book.
have, I mean, like, really? Okay, you admit it now.
Yeah,
You
I
said I'm
admit
not going to admit.
it's one of my
Okay, now,
yeah.
okay, now. So you have some questions I'm going to say to you because it's coming on the live. Someone is asking you, what's your favorite book? You're reading. I mean, is there a favorite writer or somebody you like to read for, or a book you were inspired by?
Well, when I was young, I was very inspired by a French philosopher called Albert Camus, who had the Nobel Prize of
Okay.
Literature. He was really my master, and sometimes I keep on reading his work. Maybe because he was half Algerian and half French. I don't know. Born in Algeria, but French too. Because he speak of subject that deep in my heart I feel them. Otherwise, I read everything. I read the thrillers. I read. I read each time I open a book. If it's a good book, I go through it. I don't have a choice of saying I'm going to read this kind of book or this kind of book or this kind of. I eat anything that is good. It's like food.
But
You, if it's a good plate, I will eat it.
but my advice to you is next time you're going to write, don't read for Amin Malouf.
Don't what?
Next time you're going to write a book, don't read for Amin Malouf.
No, no. I still read it. He's a great writer, and I like him very much, very much.
Yeah, he's a great writer too. Yeah, I think so. So someone is asking you, is there a comparison between the era of Muhammad Ali and the Nasser era, and how did they both affect the modern Egypt afterwards? Abdel Nasser, Gamal Abdel Nasser.
These are difficult questions, my dear.
I think so. Yeah, this is a reader, one of your readers.
to try to make a comparison between Muhammad Ali and Nasser? This is the question?
Yeah, yani, how do you compare between them, and how did they both affect the modern Egypt afterwards?
I wrote a biography of Nasser, so I know
Yes.
quite well his history, because everybody was criticizing Nasser, especially after he died, and I wanted to know who was this guy exactly, and and I know that when I say that to my Egyptian friends, they don't like it. But as a historian, you don't have to. You have to study the life of someone, not trying to um, judge with your own feelings. You have to be cold. Like when you see a tree or forest, you don't have to have any personal feeling. So when you study the life of Nasser, you discover there is two Nasser, not one. The first one is a young patriot, nationalist, who is dreaming of getting rid of the British who are occupying Egypt for 70 years, getting rid of the king who was a puppet in the hands of the English, and try to make Egypt free and proud. This was the project of Nasser. People don't know that after the revolution, the second or third night, when he was with the Zobat al-Ahrar, free officers, how you call them, they didn't know if they wanted to keep a monarchy, a monarchy or a republic. They didn't know exactly what they were doing. They didn't have really a project. They were young people, patriot, nationalists, and like all young people, they wanted the revolution, get rid of the British, get rid of the king. But in their mind, things were not exactly clear. And I think I appreciate and I admire this movement because it's a noble movement, wanting an Egyptian and free Egypt and try to give back to Egypt proud greatness as a country. And this I appreciate a lot. What he did until, let's say, after Suez Canal, which is a great movement, that I think it's one of the most courageous movements he did, he changed. And this is the other Nasser that I didn't like at all. And I think he destroyed Egypt. When he left Egypt, when he died, he left in Egypt in a state occupied by Israel, financially broken. It was a disaster. But you have to accept the first Nasser. And the first Nasser did a great job during the 3-4 first years. But he didn't left anything.
Okay, that's
Muhammad Ali left things. He left things. He created things. He created hospitals, the first hospitals in Egypt. He created the first schools. He created lots of things. He created an army. We lost our army in 1967. We lost everything. When Muhammad Ali died, we had an army, we had a fleet, we had something left.
So let's say that Nasser had an intention, but he didn't do a lot.
Exactly. He had the intention, and the intention was great. And I applaud this intention. But after, I don't know what happened in his mind. Maybe he was too young. Maybe he didn't have any experience. And probably also Europe played a very bad role, and America too, and to transform the young Nasser into what he became. But it's
I think, in my opinion, the people, the gang that was around him, that was a big part of what happened.
Probably, Abdel Hakim Mohammed was one of the most stupid chief of army we never had.
I think so. I agree. So someone is asking you that you have 2 books. One is called The Crimson Manuscript, and the other is called The Ambassador. He's looking for them, and he said, are they going to be translated to Arabic? Is there actually a book called this? Because I haven't seen that.
The
Crimson Manuscript. And
the Ambassador?
Yeah.
Which book?
He said that you have 2 books in English. He searched for that. One is called The Crimson Manuscript.
No, I don't have a book called The Crimson Manuscript.
And the other one is called The Ambassador. He asked me to ask you if they are going to be translated in Arabic.
Well, I don't know what is the Crimson Manuscript. I never.
Me too. I haven't actually heard about them. So I told him
hasn't been translated yet. No.
So someone is asking you, what do you think of Ibn Khaldun? Do you intend to write about him?
Big man, big historian, fantastic. I was reading it. It's funny because I was working on a story of Morocco. I am working on a story of Morocco, and Ibn Khaldun is the base of all the story of Morocco. He's our great historian, absolutely. His books are very. If you want to study the story of the Maghreb and all this region, his books are fantastic.
So you are working nowadays on a book about him,
I'm
or
working
about
on a
Morocco?
book of Morocco, a history of Morocco, historical novel, of course, from the 7th century to the 1956, 1,000 year.
Wow, wow,
It's
wow.
two
We're
books.
waiting for that. I only give you 2 months to finish it, please.
Yes.
Someone is asking, who's your favorite Egyptian writer? Have you read anything for Egyptian writers that been translated to French, maybe?
Yes, I read when they are translated because it's a pity. I have very big difficulty reading in Arabic. I can read in Arabic, but it takes me 1 year to read a novel. Of course, I will tell you the Nobel Prize. What is my God? Your Nobel Prize, Naguib Mahfouz. Of course,
Yeah.
Naguib Mahfouz. But I read 2 or 3 other writers, like the one who wrote, my God, The Age. What's his name?
Who wrote what?
Sorry?
Who wrote what, you mean? You said the title of the book?
Trying to remember his name. That I adored him, and I met him in Paris. He died a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
Gamal al-Ghitani?
Gamal
Gamal
al-Ghitani,
al-Ghitani?
fantastic writer.
He was my professor,
Fantastic
actually.
writer.
He wrote about me, and that was a great thing.
Yeah, no, I really like him, and he was a great writer, really. I prefer him. I shouldn't
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that to Ala Aswani. He's my friend, so if he hear that, he will be angry with me. But I think El Ritani is 2, 3 steps higher.
I agree with you, and I was really honored when he wrote a criticism about one of my books. He was a great man. So one last thing before I just leave you, because I know that we took a lot of time from you, but actually I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave you.
It's okay.
This is one of this is an experience once in a lifetime.
Oh, come on.
So you said about Egypt. You said Egypt is the kind of virus that attacks you when you are born on its land. A virus that never leaves you. A lovely lady that makes you obsessed by her, and it duplicates 10 times when you leave her. Do you still feel the same for Egypt? And is Egypt on the map of your writings soon?
Egypt for me is part of me. It's been 50 years I'm living in France, and there is not one moment where I don't think about Egypt. It's a disease. I don't know how to explain that. It's my COVID virus.
That's good.
it,
That's
it,
nice.
it's really in me, and after 2 or 3 years when I don't go to Egypt, I miss Egypt. I mean, I need badly to go back there. I need to talk to people. I need to see the night. I need to walk in the streets. It's I can't explain. It's a part of me. It's like, well, I cannot live without thinking of Egypt for 1 or 2 months. It's impossible. It's really a country that I like, I adore. I think Egyptians are the greatest, the nicest people on earth. Egyptian people have a gift that you don't find anywhere. And I have traveled around the world. They are good people. When I say good, that means deeply good people. I always remember the first time I came back
Very
after
nice.
25 years. I entered in a shop near the pyramids, on the road of the pyramid. And I entered the shop, and suddenly there is this guy who come and say, "Gilbert, Kassab." I said, "Yes, who are you?" "You don't remember me? We were in school together." Well, after all this time, and this poor guy has one leg. He was a pilot during the war, 67. he crashed and he lost his leg. And well, I was so happy to see him. And he said, it was something like 7 o'clock at night. And he said, I'll come and have a drink at your hotel. I said, okay, welcome. I was at the Manor House, not far, the Marriott, or how you call it. So he came and we started to talk about our souvenir, about childhood and all that. And around 11 o'clock, we were still talking. And he said, now let's come and have dinner at my place. And you know, as a French mind, I said, come on, it's 11 o'clock. Your wife is sleeping. Your children, I mean, it's a shit. I don't dare going to your house at 11 o'clock. And he said to me, you became too Occidental. You have to become Egyptian again. And he took me to his house at 11 o'clock. Well, his wife was awake, and he said, this is Gilbert, my friend. And she opened the fridge and she went to the neighbors and she brought all the things she had. This you don't find in Europe. It's impossible. It's not even, it's impossible. This is Egypt. This is what they had, they give it to me. And this is something you will never see in Europe. Never, never, never. Here, everybody's in his box, and that's all.
You know what? This reminds me of a story where I used to live in the States for like 2 years when I was young with my mom and dad. And we had an American friend who lived part of his life in Egypt. And, we just get bored and just go knock at his door. And then we hear him from inside saying, Aywa. And he said, how did you know that it was us? He said, you are the only people who come without a previous date. Egyptians do this all the time.
Exactly.
So that's exactly what you're saying.
Here, if you want to have dinner with someone, you have to call him 2 weeks before.
Yeah, you're right. So one last question someone is asking you, is there any novels of you that wasn't translated to Arabic?
Yeah, lots. Well, I think my publisher published something like 20 of my novels among the 30. So there are probably 10 that he didn't translate because he thought maybe it was not for the Arab readers.
Are you planning to come to Egypt soon?
Well, if I could, I would come tomorrow.
Are you planning to visit
with
soon?
that bloody COVID, I would like to go tomorrow. But with that COVID, we are all stuck. I mean, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
And we'd like to have you today. We'd like to have you today, so can come today.
Maybe after tomorrow. I will.
What you're working on now is the Moroccan novel or something else? What do you work on now? The next novel?
The Moroccan novel. Yeah, I'm working on it, and I think I will. It will be released. Maybe the first volume will be released. Maybe in April or May. I finished it. I finished the first.
It has been. Oh, we're waiting anxiously for that. We're waiting for it anxiously.
To wait until it's going to be translated.
Oh yeah, you're right. No, you can write. Well, we are in French. You write in French. Okay, so we have to wait.
Exactly.
Well, before I go, I have to tell you that it was a real honor for me. I have one last message for you. It's from someone who is very dear to me, my mom. She's a great fan of you. She's a very big reader of all your books. She's the one who really introduced me to you. She gave me your books, The Daughter of the Nile and Ibn Sina, and she told me, you have to read for this great writer. She told me to tell you at the end of the meeting that reading for your novels, she never imagined one day that her daughter would be interviewing you.
Well, I love your mother.
It's really, she loves you too. So it's really an honor. It has been a pleasure interviewing you.
Thank you,
really, interviewing the legend, as I said. We hope to see you soon in Egypt. And thank you for all the books. Thank you for being an inspiration to me and to all the writers and to all the readers all around the world. Please keep up the good work.
Thank you, Rasha. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. Thank you. Have a lovely night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.